Hi everyone, how are you all doing? Welcome back to the channel. For those who don't know me, my name is Bruno Villas, and today I'm going to tell you another story. If you're just arriving here now and you're not yet subscribed to the channel, I invite you to subscribe and activate the bell so you don't miss notifications. Because that way, every time I publish a new video, YouTube will notify you and you can come watch it with me. Guys, help me out, really subscribe to the channel, because we need to reach those 50,000 subscribers soon. It's tough, it's moving slowly, so subscribe and activate the bell. It really helps me a lot to reach this goal. Also follow me on social media because I'm always posting new things there. And besides that, I always announce when there's a new video here on the channel. I'm on all social media as Bruno Villas. But now let's get to what matters and let's go to today's case. Today's case is quite delicate because it involves a child of only 10 years old. I want to remind you that there is a complete playlist with numerous detailed criminal cases and some even unpublished here on YouTube. Guys, it's delicate because it involves a child of only 10 years old. I want to remind you that there is a complete playlist with numerous detailed criminal cases and some even unpublished here on YouTube. In case anyone feels uncomfortable with today's case, I will leave the link to the playlist in a pinned comment below, so it can be accessed without difficulty. And for those who will stay with me until the end of this video, get ready, because it will be quite difficult to reach the end without getting very emotional. Gabrielly Magalhães was born in the year 2010 in Brasilandia. Brasilandia is a district in Mato Grosso do Sul, about 370 kilometers from Campo Grande, which is the state capital. The state of Mato Grosso do Sul borders the state of São Paulo in Brazil. Despite all the problems the country faces, Brazil is a country where young people tend to be quite dreamers. Many dream of becoming doctors, engineers, digital influencers, models, teachers, and so on. And with Gabrielle, it was no different. As I said, we know that Brazil is going through various difficulties, but this happens with all nations in the world. All face their internal and external challenges. The advantage we have in Brazil is that to a certain extent we enjoy great freedom. Gabrielle dreamed of being a teacher, then she wanted to be a doctor, then a model, and so on. She was a very lively and cheerful little girl. Hey Gabby, what was there at your school? There was cake, guaraná, canjica, and sweet popcorn. And what else? Nothing else, and hot dogs. She had a brother who was 3 years older, And at some point in this narrative, her mother named Gabrielly Magalhães, separated from her father. I didn't find much precise information about him, or the exact reason why the two ended their relationship. In any case, Gabrielle was not old enough to understand all that, and was only concerned with her discoveries of the world. Children are in fact great archaeologists of life, so every day they make a new discovery. They don't have time to worry about adult issues, and they shouldn't, right folks? Children need to be children. Gabrielly had a rather troubled history. She had a police record for drug trafficking and theft. She wasn't a very proper mother, and by this time was separated. Therefore, it was natural that from time to time she had other encounters, and for Gabrielle and her brother, all of that was normal and routine. Occasionally their mother would show up at home with new friends. But all of this changed when Gabrielly started dating a man named André Luiz Ferreira Piauí. The relationship was quite serious, and at a certain point, Gabrielle and her brother began to call him Stepfather. He was not a friend, colleague, or even just mom's boyfriend. Things had progressed, and he was the new man in her life. So much so that at school the girl started referring to him as Stepfather every time she talked about him with classmates and friends. He moved into the family's house. Anyway, time passed. And at the end of 2019, something very strange and confusing happened to Gabrielle. At the first opportunity he had, André Luiz touched the girl in a different way. The girl knew it was wrong. She knew something was out of place. So she sought help from the person she trusted and admired most in this world, Gabrielly, her mother. Gabrielle knew that her mother would do anything to protect her. After all, that's what people said mothers did. They protected children. But Gabi was scared and speechless when she noticed her mother's nervousness. and look of indignation. Amy later defended her man and insisted that the girl never speak about it to anyone again. Little Gabrielle realized that her mother had found the perfect man, the Prince Charming she had been searching for a long time, and that she would not lose this chance, this gift from the gods, for anything in the world. With this discovery, the little girl was completely lost and had no one to lean on. The frequency of the abuses began to increase, and the girl ended up telling a school friend what was happening. This friend advised Gabby to seek help from the school teachers, to go to one of them and ask for help. But the girl quickly imagined how angry her mother would be with her. She would say that she was making everything up and would also give her a good beating. Gabrielle was paralyzed just imagining how much she would be beaten if she told anyone else what her stepfather had been doing to her. On March 21st, 2020, at 10 years old, Gabrielle reached her limit. She confronted her mother about the issue again. She had been advised by her school friends. She knew that all of it was wrong. She hoped that her mother would resume her role as a mother and protector and take action. But unfortunately, the girl was wrong. Amy Lady at that time was 29 years old and became enraged with her daughter, and after a beating, she shouted that she would kill Gabby if she talked about this subject again. After all, Amy Lady was fed up with this subject. Andre Louis was sleeping peacefully in the bedroom in his deepest sleep, and he was the man of her life, the guy who was making her happy. He was honest, hard-working, affectionate, virile. Wasn't it enough that the envious women on the street were looking at her man, and now she also had to compete with her own daughter? Amy Lady was very angry and completely distraught. Gabriel's older brother arrived in the meantime, and witnessed the argument between mother and daughter. In his testimony later, he said that his mother was under the influence of alcohol. Well, a few hours later, she called her two children to go out and put them both in the car. Gabby, as I just mentioned, was 10 years old, and her brother had just turned 13. Gabby imagined that all of this would end. She thought that her mother had finally come to her senses and was ready to admit her mistake and fight for her daughter. Amy Lady drove to a road outside the city. Various thoughts ran through the girl's mind when her mother stopped the car and told them both to get out. Gabrielle expected to receive a hug and hear an apology. But what happened next was completely different from that. Amy Lady started yelling and went after the girl. Gabby tried to run but was quickly caught. Amy Lady began to assault her daughter and at a certain point used an electrical wire that was lying on the ground to help strangle Gabrielle. The girl didn't understand anything. Everything was spinning and seemed very confusing. That's when she lost consciousness for a few minutes. Amy Lady then forced her 13-year-old son to help her with the body. They dragged the girl around a dump where all the city's trash was disposed of and threw the girl headfirst into a hole there. Then Amy Lady ordered her son to start helping to throw dirt. Gabby regained consciousness and started screaming for help. She was in a lot of pain because she was quite injured, but she couldn't give up. She needed to fight for her life. At that moment, it no longer mattered who was throwing the dirt on her body. She only thought about screaming. Someone might hear and come to rescue her. But as she screamed, more dirt was thrown into the hole, until she started to run out of air, until she could no longer scream. Suddenly everything was dark. Suddenly there was no way to breathe. Suddenly she realized the battle was over. Suddenly there was no more life. Amy Lady climbed the mound of dirt and stomped on it several times to ensure everything was well set and perfectly buried. She breathed a sigh of relief because all her problems were over. She breathed a sigh of relief because now she could live the life she always wanted, the life she always dreamed of, alongside the man she loved so much, the perfect man the universe had placed in her life. She took her son to a park and then went to a bar to have a nice cold beer. Investigations later showed that Amy Lady returned to the crime scene 3 more times to make sure the girl was lifeless. Some people suggested that she might have had a crisis of conscience and regretted it. However, what makes more sense is that she returned to check if no one had witnessed the act, or even to ensure that no one had heard the girl's screams. In any case, on that same day, Amy Lady called the police to report her daughter's disappearance. She said she had left her 2 children in a park, but her daughter was missing, and she was very worried about the girl's safety. It is not known whether due to the effect of alcohol in her system or genuine remorse. Amy Lady contacted the civil police again, saying she had done something terrible and wanted to turn herself in. The police went to her house and she led them to the place where her daughter Gabrielle was buried. Then she and her son were taken to give statements at the police station. The boy received support from the Child Protective Services and gave his statement in the presence of an agent. Initially, she said that her daughter was unjustly accusing her boyfriend of abuse and that the girl was going too far. She also said that she acted uncontrollably in a moment of nervousness, but that she was remorseful and never wanted to hurt her own daughter. She said she lost her temper for a few minutes and it resulted in what it did. Amy Lady further stated that she did not hear her daughter scream for help because she believed she was already lifeless when she threw her into the hole. This statement contradicts the boy's testimony, who claimed he was forced to help his mother commit that horrible act, and the two buried his sister while she was still alive. His version was later corroborated by the coroner's report, which also confirmed that there were signs the girl had been severely beaten before she lost her life. She had multiple injuries and bruises all over her body. At the moment she was supposed to make her official confession, Amy Lady said she would only speak in court. Therefore, her initial statements were recorded as unofficial. M. Lade was caught in the act and charged with qualified homicide for a vile motive. Cruel means using a method that hindered the defense of the crime committed by concealing another crime, concealment of a corpse, and corruption of a minor. She was arrested without the possibility of bail and sent to the women's prison in Tres Lagoas, a city also located in Mato Grosso do Sul. The police requested the preventive detention of Andre Luis, who at the time of the events was 47 years old. He was identified as a suspect in committing the crimes of child abuse and began to be investigated for possible involvement in the homicide and concealment of the victim's body. Gabrielle's 13-year-old brother was apprehended and sent to an educational detention unit. When the case became public knowledge, it generated great public outrage, and the media coverage quickly spread across the entire country. The small town was in disbelief at how cruel this mother had allegedly been, and the worst part of all this was the motivation behind the case: jealousy over a man and the attempt to cover up an abuser within her own home, as if the victim was at fault and not the aggressor. With the case's repercussion, the witness who heard Gabi say she was being abused came forward and gave their testimony at the city police station. In September 2021, the Public Defender's Office, which is handling the case, filed a request for an incident of mental insanity in court. The case was already in the final argument stage, where the final arguments from both parties are presented. When the defense filed the appeal, the procedure was under judicial secrecy and had been forwarded to the Court of Justice for consideration of the appeal, but the judge, named Rogerio Ursi Ventura, denied the appeal, understanding that there were not enough indications to justify the initiation of the incident. During the trial, M. Lade stated that he did not dig the hole to bury his daughter, and that he accidentally fell into the location. During this supposed fall, she ended up taking Gabrielle with her, as the girl had a cord around her neck. After the daughter fell, she allegedly leaned on the girl to get out of the hole, and managed to escape unharmed. She claimed that she did not dig the hole to hide her daughter's body, but rather that the hole was already there. She also said that she did not remember many details about the day of the crime, as she was drunk and had used drugs. During the time she was awaiting her sentence, Monsieur Lade exchanged several love letters with Andre Luis, a fact she later denied when questioned. On Wednesday, January 12, 2022, Monsieur Gabrielly Magalhães, 30 years old, was convicted by a jury court in the city of Tres Lagoas. Her sentence was 39 years, 8 months, and 4 days in prison. M. Lade was convicted of qualified homicide, concealment of a corpse, false reporting of a crime, and corruption of minors. The sentence will be served in a closed regime. Andre Luis Ferreira Piauí remains in custody for abuse, and the boy, Gabrielle's brother, is expected to continue serving socio-educational measures in a juvenile detention facility until he is released by the judge. One fact that left me quite outraged is that Monsieur Lade's defense attorney filed a motion to reduce the sentence, arguing that she did not commit concealment of a corpse since the hole was already open, and she only buried her daughter alive. She did not hide the body of her already deceased daughter, which I find absurd, and thank God this appeal was denied. Well, folks, this case was one that shocked me quite a lot. I think you might already know about it because it's a national case, right? And it had a lot of repercussion. But if you didn't know about it, leave a comment for me here. And if you have any suggestions for another case, leave it here for me as well. If you've made it this far with me, as always, just leave your like, which really motivates me to continue bringing this type of content here for you. This was today's case. I'll stop here and see you in the next video.